Hi guys, welcome back. So today what I'm going to be doing is the Vanos in my E46 M3. If you know these cars, then you probably know that the Vanos can cause no end of issues and even engine failure. If you don't know, basically the Vanos is like the variable valve timing to the car, and it can cause issues such as a rattling from the engine, which you can hear, which is never good, as well as juddering while you're driving it along. So what I'm going to be doing are covering the main things, of course, which is going to be the Vanos oil pump disc, the seals on the Vanos, and check if there are any free play, as well as renewing all the bolts in it. I'm going to quickly pop inside, get changed into my dirty gear, and then we're going to crack on with it, and I'm going to show you everything as I'm doing it. Right, okay then, as you can see, there's not much difference, but anyway, let's pop the bonnet and show you everything under there that we're going to have to start taking off. Right, there we go, bonnet up. Is it going to fit? Just lovely. Right then, so the first thing that I'm going to be removing is this air intake here, which goes to the airbox and the air intake, as well as the fan and shroud down here, so we can get to the Vanos solenoid under here, as well as checking the timing, because we're going to need to check that the timing is at top dead center before we start doing anything majorly to the engine, and we're not going to be able to see that with all that stuff in the way. Following that then, what we're going to do is we're going to take the strut brace off across there, and probably the cabin filter, as well as this stuff, to be able to take off the rocker cover, because we're going to also need a cam lock tool to lock the pins in place when we put everything back together. I've ordered the tool, it hasn't actually arrived yet, but we're going to definitely need it to put everything back together so we can clock the timing in and check everything correctly. But for now, we should just be able to manage. Right then, so as you can see, I've got everything off, and I've had to take the airbox off because there was a little bolt down here which I couldn't quite get to. It was either take the airbox out or the headlight out, and I thought that's the easier option, so I just took that out because I couldn't get there otherwise. And of course I had to take the inter to get the 2 bolts at the bottom. Anyway then, I'll show you the timing. There's a little mark here, and we're going to have to rotate the crank a little bit, probably about 60 degrees, something like that. But of course, I'm still waiting on the crank tool and the cam locking tool, which will come soon. But for now, I'm just going to rotate it and show you what I mean. Anyway, down here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's a timing mark here. I've got to rotate the crank a little bit so that mark lines up. And that's the timing mark, and just to the left of it there, you can see that is where it's meant to locate. And there's meant to be a little pin that you stick through there to lock the crank in place. Anyway, until then, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get all the stuff off here so I can get the rocker cover off, and of course, all the coil packs, so I have access to see where all the timing is. As you can see, I've got all the rocker cover off now, of course, and I've put just, you know, all the coil packs, that loom, sort of everything over there, and I've timed everything down there. I've turned the crank to roughly the right spot. And now what I've also done is I've removed the Vanos control solenoid, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, I've literally just removed 5 bolts from up here, so 2 here, another 2 here, and 1 from there. I've literally just given it a wiggle, pulled it off, unclipped it from there, and I've been able to pull the unit off and take the sealing plate off as well, which I'll show you in a second. What I've also done then is, as you can see, for the oil feed to the Vanos, there's a 10mm bolt down here that I've also removed just after I've taken that off. Now what I've also got to do is I've got to take that top one off of there to remove it. Right then guys, so as you can probably tell, I haven't actually got the cam lock tool yet. I'm still waiting on that basically. It's meant to be delivered today, but it hasn't, but I'd like to crack on and get things done. Anyway, it should be alright to take apart without it, but I'm definitely going to need the cam lock tool to get everything back together in exactly the right place. But for now then, what I've done, I've basically just turned each cam to the top dead centre. So you see those dowel holes, they're facing up, and that was with a 24mm spanner. Anyway, now I've taken the oil feed off to the actual Vanos unit, which you can see is down here. Just put a cable tie on it to kind of hold everything together and keep it out of the way nicely. So then, to get this unit off, what we're going to have to do is put a 10 or 30mm bolt here, get those 2 bolts off each end, and then under here, there's some 6mm hex bolts under here, and I should just about be able to wiggle this off. I've undone the bolts, I've literally just given it a very gentle prise, and I've pulled it out here. Now what I've got to undo is these bolts here. I think it's a 7mm and a 10mm on each side. I've just got to loosen these off, and then I should be able to pull this unit free, and then I can access everything else, and I can inspect, for example, the timing chain guide, which might be broken, and I can redo the bolts behind these here on the Vanos, as well as fitting an anti-rattle kit to these and the seals in this unit. Right then, so as you can see, the Vanos unit is here. It's all removed now. I've removed the gasket on it, which we're going to try and reuse because it looks fine and it's been doing its job okay, but we're going to double check it and try and reuse that. Anyway, the main issue with Vanos then is, as you can see, there's a little bit of wear on each of these. That's where this fits into the cam, and as it turns around, it creates oil pressure by pushing these dowels in and out with some springs in it to create pressure. Anyway, what will usually happen is here, this doesn't fit very well on the cam. It can start to rattle around and it can break off the ends of the cam on it because it's not very tight. The idea now is to remachine 2 new holes here, which are going to be a tighter fit on the actual cam so it doesn't rattle around as much. I've seen ones of these that have been a lot worse, and of course it doesn't break anything off on the cam. I'd say this one isn't too bad, but it's always good to do that for the peace of mind. So then, as you can see, that there is where the oil pump actually fits onto the camshaft. As you can see on them, they're in good condition. They're not broken off at all, which is great. Okay then, so as you can see now, I've taken this out of here, which sits in kind of like a roller bearing inside of another shell, which I've just put here. And there are these little springs and the caps here, which I've just kind of put over here to one side. You have to be careful, of course, that they don't go flying out here, there and everywhere. Anyway, as well now then, what I've got to do, I've got to take these little caps out basically. They sit in there and they're just like a little shim sort of thing anyway. There's one in each of them. I'm going to take them out of there. I'm going to put these and them in there just to keep them nice and safe. And then I'm going to take this away and get remachined. Okay then, so as you can see, that's the little shim that's got to come out of there. I'm just going to get those out then and then show you what it actually fits like on the camshaft. Here it is, oil pump disc before it's been machined. I'm just going to pop that on the end there and show you how loose it actually is. As you can see that, to me, in something like an engine as well, that's crazy loose. You know, I'm surprised I didn't recall it or anything like that. Anyway, let's go and get this remachined. Right then, so the next thing of course is these here, which can usually cause the Vanos rattle. You can see there's a lot of sloppy side to side, up and down here, back and forth, everywhere play in each one of these. So then the idea of course is to get these out. We're going to remove these sprockets here, pull these out, and then basically fit some shims in here to stop any side to side or backwards and forwards movement, which will prevent that rattle. And of course, at the same time, when I've taken these off, we're going to replace the bolts behind there for timing chain guides on the Vanos, and we're going to check the timing chain guide down there is okay. So now it's time to fit the anti-rattle kit and get these out of here. Basically then, what I've got to do is I've loosened these bolts off here just to give us a bit of slack to pull these out. What I'm going to do as well, I'm going to scribe a mark just on each one so they go pretty much back in the same place. I've literally just cleaned them up a little bit and used a bit of Tipex on each one by pulling them just to the end of the helical gear, so that when I pull them out and I can put them back in, I'm going to know that everything's going to be in the right location. Right, okay then guys, so here are like the Vanos gearboxes or whatever you want to call them. They had a lot of play, and basically I've ordered the Belson anti-rattle kit, which I'm going to be fitting to them. So all I've got to do basically is take these apart and fit the kit to them. Of course, this is like a tool that we're going to put in a vise, put this in here, and it's got the teeth in it to undo them at the top. As you can probably see, the shims in there, there's a bit of side to side, so you can just see a gap there and there. Basically, the whole idea in the kit that we're going to be installing, which is this kit here, is that it's going to kind of take any free play away, and we're going to slide these shims either side of it to stop any lateral movement and any side to side movement. Right then guys, so the next thing we've got to do of course are the Vanos seals, which is the repair kit here by Sane Systems, or whatever you'd like to call it. As you can see, it's just a pack full of like O-rings basically and seals. So these two large ones of course are for these like sealing plates or whatever you'd like to call them here, which I've undone the bolts for over there. And then I'm just going to have to gently prise these off, and of course on the other side then these shafts here I've got to pop out here and here. And of course, when I take these out, they're mainly the seals that I'm going to have to do. And of course, this one here. Okay, so all of the Vanos seals are out now. Of course, what I've also done, I've quickly cleaned up all of the plate, just with some brake clean, that sort of thing, just to make everything nice and fresh, like as possible. And then also I've cleaned these up. I've got the O-rings out ready on them anyway. And what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to do all the seals on these and then get the ones out of here. Okay then, so as you can also see, I've got the oil pump disc back from the machine shop now. Basically, these have been drilled to 9.8 each and about 10.2mm deep. Of course, with a little chamfer around the edge to make it easier to fit. The PCD between the two, if you need to do it, is 40.5. Basically, this is going to be a nice tight fit compared to these two here where it rattles around loosely. Right, okay then, so of course, I've got the seals back in the Vanos unit now. They're all fresh and replaced now, which is all good. And of course, I put the oil pump disc back in, and I've put a bit of oil in there as well to make sure that it turns freely and everything works as it should. Seems pretty good. It was a bit of a pain to get in there, but what I did of course, there was that outer bearing race. I took that out of it and I put that disc in the race, and then I put all of it in as one, and after a couple of attempts we got there, thank God. Right then, so as you can see, I've got the hubs off now, and what I'm going to do is, you see these Allen key bolts here, I've got to replace all of these on each sprocket because these are known to break off basically and cause no end of issues. So what I'm going to do is basically do one bolt at a time and then clean it out, put a new bolt in with some thread lock, and then just do it one at a time really. Right, and so here you can see there are new revised bolts from Bmw. They're Torx heads now, instead of the hex bolts that are currently on there. And they're literally pennies each. I think only 64p or 69p, something like that. And we only need 12, of course, 6 for each sprocket. And it's well worth doing. So as you can see, I've removed my first bolt and I've got the new bolt here. Put a little bit of blue thread lock on that, of course. We're going to work our way around and change all of these out for the new upgraded ones. I've already completed one side, so what I've done, I've literally just went my way around all of them one by one basically. I've literally just taken the old bolt out, I've put a bit of brake cleaner in there and I've blown it out with an airline, followed by a little bit of Loctite on the thread, tightened it all up, went my way around. Of course, now I'm going to move on and do this side, and then we can move on to check the timing chain guide on the car and check that that's okay. Right then, so as you can see, I've completed both sides now, and they're all torqued up to spec and put some blue Loctite in, so that shouldn't be an issue. There was no wear on the actual bolts, so it's always great to do that for peace of mind. Of course, now what we've got to do then is the timing chain guide, which is just down here, which is known to be issue because over time it's black plastic, it's brittle, it gets old, and a little bit at the end can break off. So what I'm going to do then is just down here, there's a timing chain tensioner, which is a 22 or a 24 mil. I'm just going to unbolt that, and then I can slip this off here and check what the guide looks like. If it's no good and it's broken, I'm just going to order a new one from Bmw and fit that, because we shouldn't really be running it with a broken timing chain guide. Right, so we've got the cam gear off now as well, and we've undone the top tensioner, which I've just taken out, and surprise, surprise, it's broken. Let me just show you that now. Right, so then here's the new one, as you can see, and the old one, of course, it's broken off, and it's not any good. Those little pieces, I'm not sure where they've gone, to be honest, but we could be searching forever to find them. We're going to have a quick look and try and see if we can dig anything else out. If not, we're going to put this in and everything should be good as new. Right, of course, then what I've also done is I pulled these out just to the end of it, and I made a couple of marks on each, so that when I've pulled these out and I fit them back to the unit, when I fit it to the car, I know where to put these and how to align them properly. So you see each groove, basically I've done the two slightly closer and two slightly further away, so there, it's going to engage nicely, and you know that that is going to be in the right place when we put everything back together. And then we can tighten this back up to the actual Vanos control unit and solenoid, and everything should be perfect. Right then, so we've got the new chain guide on, and we put the tensioner back on, that's all tightened up and everything's okay there. I was also thinking, when we started doing this, that cam was slightly out. That could have even been because that guy down there had broken off and gave it a tiny bit of slack. Anyway, that's sorted now. We've got the Vanos gearboxes here in, and of course we put these back on just finger tight. So what we're going to do then, of course, is put the gearboxes back on the actual Vanos unit itself, and then we're going to tighten everything in, make sure everything's okay, and we should be able to turn the engine over a couple of times and check all the timing marks. Everything should be perfect now, and then we should be good to go. Right, okay then guys, so as you can see, everything's all back together now. Of course, we're going to start the car up, let it take over a little bit for idle, take it out for a test and see that everything's okay. This should be 10 times healthier now than it was beforehand. Right, so then guys, we've just taken the car as well for a quick, test drive, warm the car up and check how everything is, of course. She runs absolutely spot on now, and she runs 10 times better now, in fact, after doing the Vanos than it actually did before, which is always great news. Let me just quickly walk you around anyway and show you she sounds a lot better now. Right, so then guys, as you can tell, the car's running nicely and smoothly now. If anything, to me, it sounds a lot healthier now than before we actually did the Vanos, so we've definitely made an improvement there. And of course, that more likely could have been to do with that snap timing chain guide. Of course, we've now got a clean Vanos system, which is fully operational and it's working. The car itself now actually feels a little bit quicker, if I'm honest, which is always good to know. So then, another thing to note, of course, is just how the car revs. It sounds like it's got more intake noise. Right, so then guys, as you can tell now, the car itself, it sounds a lot healthier, it runs a lot better, it drives a lot better. There's actually more torque is what it feels like in the engine, so it's definitely well worth doing all the Vanos in the car, of course. I hope maybe you've even learned something from watching this video and that you've all enjoyed it anyway. And if you want to see more videos of me messing around with cars, of course, then don't forget to tap down below, hit like and subscribe, and let me know anything that you think I should be doing next time, of course. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks guys, see you later.